Almost 10 years since the release of the G403 and G703, the Superlight version now exists, and Logitech didn't make it. The G403 is my most used gaming mouse of all time. I used it during the peak of my gaming career, if you can call it that, and it also represents the golden era of Logitech gaming mice, where from 2016 to 2020, they released so many incredible gaming mice. There was something for everyone. And it peaked when the Superlight was released in 2020. And from that point on, a lot of people, myself included, waited for their favourite Logitech mouse to get the Superlight treatment. This is the Terra, made by a company called teevolution, and this is where a bit of risk comes from, because who the hell are they? From what I understand, they're basically an umbrella company of fan tech who are responsible for mice like the WARHURYEAH and the Helios 2. So it's not a completely new company with no experience making gaming mice, thankfully, because remaking the G703 is a big responsibility, and if they mess this up, God help me, I won't be happy. There's been a couple of attempts at a G703 clone, one from Sprime, who released the PM1 last year, where they made the rather strange decision to make the G703 smaller. Despite that, it ended up being one of my most used mice of last year. Unfortunately, it looks like Sprime has gone AWOL. Then we have the Pulsar X3, a G703-like shape with a few changes that, in my opinion, is blasphemous to the G703. I mean, look, they shrunk down the side buttons, made them look soft, and they smoothed out the main buttons. Now, I can't exactly vouch whether or not this one is good because I haven't tried it, but the Terra looks to be the G703 in all its glory. I even dusted off my original G403 that I used during the peak of my gaming abilities and used them both one after the other, sometimes swapping whilst playing because I wanted to be sure they were the same. It's even got the thick and meaty side buttons. Look at those puppies. You'd get arrested if you went out with those hanging out. There are some differences between these two, but nothing that takes away from the shape too much, thankfully. The biggest difference is the lack of rubberized sides in the Terra, and I'm going to sound like a massive hypocrite right now because I get really annoyed when manufacturers add rubberized sides or engravings, just anything on the sides that can rub against your skin. But I kind of miss the rubberized sides. This could just be down to nostalgia taking me back to a time when I was really good at video games, had hair, and a positive outlook towards life. It's probably for the best, as my original G403 is looking a bit worse for wear on the sides due to the constant use. Also, look at this cable. You kids have no idea how good you have it with gaming mice these days. This was a really strange era for Logitech where for some reason they decided braided cables weren't enough and just used a rope. When playing with the G403, it did feel like a warm blanket. The rubberized sides just make this a nice snug fit against my hand, but obviously there's flaws with the mouse by today's standards. And luckily, that's where the Terra comes in. The Terra has the features expected from a modern gaming mouse, the 3950 sensor with 8000Hz polling rate, optical switches, and best of all, a super lightweight that weighs less than the Superlight, of around just 50 grams. The reduced weight of the Terra is amazing, even more so when you factor in the size of the mouse overall. It's great that there is a beefy, lightweight ergo mouse out there for real, manly men like me. None of these delicate little things that are like the Chihuahua equivalent of gaming mice. I also want to point out that this one has no holes in the shell at all. It's completely solid, even on the underside, so you won't have to worry about any major dust or dirt buildups. And yeah, the shape is pretty much identical to the G703 or 403. There are some minor sub-millimeter differences, but I can't get a completely accurate look without some expensive equipment, as when you use photos there's likely going to be misalignments. The differences are rather small and I'd imagine are mainly related to the lack of rubberized sides. It still gets really snug and tight up against your palm. There's plenty of room for your fingers. It is a peak palm grip shape. The sensor performance with the Terra is going to be as expected from a modern gaming mouse these days. I've noticed no issues there. The optical switches are rather interesting as they use a switch that I've not heard of before, which is called the FE Advanced Optical Switch. I've searched around to find anything at all, but haven't been able to. So I took the mouse apart to get some more information, and whilst doing so I may or may not have broken the mouse in the process. Anyway, the only markings that I can find on it are F1-S100, and a Google search gives me nothing at all, so this was a waste of time. Honestly, I was very skeptical about these switches because of the lack of information surrounding them, but after using them, they're pretty great. Definitely some of the best feeling optical switches out there. They have a nice tactile feel without having a hollowness that some others suffer from. There's very little pre or post travel to these. They are easily spammable as well. So if you had concerns like I did, you can put them aside for now. In terms of buttons and switches, everything else around the mouse is just as good, if not improved, over the G403 or 703. The scroll wheel is excellent and is a massive improvement, and the side buttons feel great as well. And as they are super chunky, they are easily reachable. And no, they don't get in the way. And then we have the party piece, or the gimmick, the LCD HD TV. This basically tells you the settings of the mouse, what DPI you have, polling rate, battery life, connection mode, etc. It's a nice little addition which provides some practical functionality. I've come to appreciate the clearer battery life indication this provides. It's just a better way of remembering to plug the mouse in to charge every so often at a more convenient time. And I'd imagine that the time display may be good for single monitor gamers. This isn't included with every Terra, as there's two purchasing options with this mouse, but you can always buy the 8000Hz dongle separately in the future. In terms of changing your settings, you can do so with either a standalone program or web-based software. Both are rather mediocre. You can do all the stuff that you need to, so it's not a big deal, but it is a bit rubbish to look at. An inclusion that I think is a bit strange, or I can see not being universally liked, are the mouse feet. You have these honeycombed texture on them, which will make them feel a bit faster as there's less friction, but I find them to be really scratchy. There are some spare dot feet included with both purchasing options that don't have this honeycomb pattern, and from what I've checked briefly, you can use G403 or G703 feet on this as well, so there's going to be plenty of alternative options. You do get some spare standard mouse feet, but they also have the same honeycomb pattern on them. I would have just preferred standard plain stock feet, honestly. Before we get to my opinion, let's take a look at the price and availability. The information provided in this video is accurate at the time of its release. The mouse is available at Indiegogo for now and will ship worldwide. I'll give you the full estimated retail price for now, as this may be more accurate. So this is the possible price when it's distributed to other retailers and doesn't include discounts. Again, this can change though. The Terra with the 8K dongle will be around $106. Without the 8K dongle, it will be around $80. The 8K dongle separately is worth around $30. So, now that we know the price, would I recommend it? Yes, I would, 100%. This is a G703 Superlight. It's an amazing mouse. I'm not too keen on the stock mouse feet, but if Logitech had made this, they would probably just include their garbage stock feet anyway and charge $150 instead. Apart from that, this is the mouse that I have been waiting years for, and it's perfect for me. If you are someone that has manly hands and likes to get a really good grasp on their gaming mice, ideally with a palm grip, this is the mouse for you. This is probably going to be my main mouse for the foreseeable future, because really, it's exactly what I wanted from a G703 Superlight. Now that you've obviously found the next gaming mouse you want to buy, why not watch this video that will tell you what keyboard to buy?